Hi, welcome to Monday Moments with Fran. I hope you are doing great. Today I want to share one of my testimonies about how I came to be living in my house, and specifically the timing of God in that season. So it was actually 10 years ago this week that I moved into my house. And so 2008, and the story starts in the January. Now I was living with another family at the time, and it was just time for me to really branch out and stand on my own 2 feet and get my own place. And so in the January, I went to visit a mortgaged place, gave some details, and nothing happened. And I kind of felt that actually, although I know this is going to be the year where perhaps I get my place, it wasn't going to be the month. And, I've been praying about it loads. And I knew that May was a really, really key month for me to make progress with getting a house. And so, May rolled around. I'd gone to visit a mortgage advisor and had the preliminary checks done. And at the time, I was working in a particular area of Birmingham. And so I decided that, well, it just makes sense. Let me start looking for a house in that part of the city. So I went with one of my big sisters in the Lord, and we looked at probably 4 or 5 houses, and some of them were absolutely beautiful, but for some reason I just knew that it wasn't my house. So we did this about 4 or 5 times, and I'd go in and it'll be like, oh, this is amazing, but I never got that, this is the right house for you. So I felt a bit discouraged, but kind of left it. And then one particular Saturday I was in another part of the city, and I happened to go into an estate agent, and I said to them, I'm looking for a house, these are my specifications, this is my budget, do you have anything like that available? And the response was, no, you're not going to get a house in that price range, it's just a no-go. And then the lady says, well, actually, hang on a minute, there is a house that's just come on the market this week. So she went to the back and bought me out that, the house specification sheet where they're right on, the layout and the rooms and all of that stuff. But she got a marker and wrote across it draft because it hadn't been finalised and agreed. And also there was no for sale sign outside the property. So no one else knew this house was available. So she said, you could actually perhaps, consider this house. Just call the vendor directly and arrange a viewing. So sometimes, we have to not wait and just get on with things. So I thought, what, Fran, just call them there and then and see if you can go and visit the house. So I rang them. They said, yes, we're home. Come on in. So I walked up to the house, walked in, and I was like, nope, I don't like this house. For many reasons, I just didn't feel it was the right house for me. But I had a tour of the house, and I began to share with the owner at the time my plans, and it was to move in and also bring a family member to move in with me, and just a little bit about myself. And all I can say is I just had favour in her eyes, and she really liked me, and she liked what I was planning to do with the house. So that was on the Saturday. Now halfway through the tour, I get a check in my spirit, Fran, this is your house. Okay. All right, fine. We'll just go with it. And so I went and left it, and I really prayed about it that weekend. Now, I didn't tell anybody that I'd gone to visit this house. So on the Monday, after really praying it through, I said to the estate agent, I said, I'd like to put an offer in the house, but I'd like you to ask the vendor if they would go on the vendor gifted scheme. Now, at the time, this was a scheme where if your house had been on the market for a really long time and it wasn't moving, or if you were in a chain and you needed to move house really quickly, it was a way to get the ball rolling. Because what it was saying was the vendor will pay the deposit on behalf of the person buying the house as like an incentive. Now, the house didn't fit into any of those categories because the couple who lived here were moving out to move into her recently. Her father had recently passed away, so they were going to be moving into his house to do it up. The house had not been on the market even for a week, and there was no for sale sign outside. So, it hadn't been there for a long time. So everything that should have said, no, we're not going to go on the scheme, was in place. However, on the Tuesday, I got a phone call to say, Fran, thank you for your offer. I can confirm it's been accepted. And also, the vendor is willing to go on the vendor gifted scheme. Well, I was elated, to say the least. It was so incredible. And that day I got that phone call was the last day of the month of May. And so I knew that this was God's timing. And then in the June, as we began to finalise all the documentation, one of the things they needed from me was bank statements. No, that's not the right word. They needed payslips to verify that I've been in work for 3 years. That was their minimum term at the time before they would agree your mortgage. And I had been in work 3 years to the month that then allowed me to get approval. And so I know this was God's timing. And actually the May thing, it just all really, really coincided. So I am sharing this story with you to encourage you that sometimes, in fact all the time, we need to seek and trust God for his perfect timing. There's a reason why particular things happen at particular times and in particular ways. And, faith and works go hand in hand. So pray, trust God and have the faith and trust him to bring about his timing. But similarly, you must do what you have to do in the right time. If I'd been praying, but hadn't actually actively gone and visited estate agents, spoken, had conversations, made phone calls, it wouldn't have happened, because God will not do for us what we can do for ourselves. So I want to encourage you, we're in September, and somehow I feel like September is another fresh start. It's a new school term, it's a new academic year, it's the Jewish New Year, and September is the beginning of autumn. It definitely is a new season. So in this season, seek God for his perfect timing in whatever area of your life you are just really seeking and looking for that change. And then do your bit as well, because there are so many things that I know God's got planned for your life and my life and our lives, because we're his children and he has good gifts for us. So there is a lot more to the story that I'm going to share next week, and just really testify about God's provision, because truly he has been really, really faithful. So, be encouraged. God is your good father. Have an amazing week. Go and encourage somebody else and stay blessed.